We're going to create our first application using Swift and iOS using Xcode as well. There's a previous video that shows how to create a new project in Xcode and also describes a few of the sections of Xcode that you see here. I strongly recommend you watch that video. Well, with that in mind, you can create a new project in Xcode and start from there. So this is going to be a new Swift project, a new iOS project. It's going to be a single screen project, and we're going to build a BMI calculator, a calculator that takes in your height and weight and computes your body mass index. It's a very simple project. We're going to use the model view controller pattern, and this is going to be my view. Whatever I put here, my view controller is going to be this one here. And I need the model, which is basically the data for the BMI, your height and weight, and your BMI. So for that, I'm going to create a new Swift file. So I just set my cursor on the main folder, right-click or go to File, and then New File, and then it's going to be a source for iOS. It's going to be a Swift file. At that, I click Next, and then this will ask me for the name of the file. I'm going to call it BMI computer, fine, or BMI model, so it's clear. Then create. I have this base class with import foundation only on it. Foundation is a library of all the basic classes that support the language, like strings and stuff like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little class that basically I'll call it BMI model just to be consistent. And BMI model is going to have two member variables, height and weight. This could have been lets, but I went with vars for this tutorial. Then the initial method, the constructor, it's going to receive a height and a weight variables. These are local. And then what happens is when you initialize a height and a weight, the member variables height and weight, so these two here, will get set to the height and weight, to these two. Okay? And then there's a function BMI that will return double. Basically, it computes the BMI and returns it once these variables have been set. I could have done this with closures. If you know what those are, you can Google it up. It would make for a much elegant class, but for now I'm just going to stick to this, which is the most traditional programming approach if you're coming from the world of object-oriented programming languages such as Java, C++, and Objective-C. All right, so we have our model. Now the next step is to actually design our view and do something in our view controller. So to design a view, I'm going to put in here a label. So, oh no, first of all, I'm going to put a title. To put a title bar here, okay, what you need to do is well, you have selected the view controller here, okay, you want to go to the editor menu and then go embed in and then click in navigation controller, okay. This will set up a navigation bar in your view controller. And what happens now is you can double click here, and this will bring the attribute inspector for the navigation item. And then the title, you can put, the title of your application, calculator, okay? And this will show the BMI calculator in the interface builder. If you can't see your complete screen, you can always go to Editor, Canvas, and then zoom out, zoom in, and there's menus to zoom in. You can't really see them on the video, okay? But I can zoom out, and I can zoom in. Okay, but that's the title of my application. Now I'm going to put a few controls. I'm going to put a few labels here. So I'll look at the label. I drag it and place it where I want it to be. And again, to change the title of what the label says, I can go here and say, this is going to ask for height in meters. Okay, It's going to be the height in meters. It doesn't fit. I need to make it a little bigger. Height in meters. Good. I'm going to put another label below this one that's going to say basically, and these lines that show up as I move my label tell me the alignments. So I'm going to align this one, and this I'm going to call not height in meters, but weight in kilograms. Okay, because that's the class that I programmed. The model takes meters and kilograms. Okay, here I'm going to try to align it to there. There you go. On top of that, I'm going to have another label, which is going to say basically BMI. I'm going to add a third label here that's actually going to contain the BMI. Okay, that label's not going to say anything. It's just going to say label for now. It's going to be ugly, but it'll work. Now, to enter the height and weight, I need to actually provide a text field. So I'll just go down here in this area, right, and get a text field to put over here. There. I'm going to create another text field and put it right here. Now I can control what kind of keyword shows up in these text fields by going to the attributes inspector and looking for the keyboard type. For example, here I can say it's going to be a number pad, right, or a decimal pad, because I can actually get decimal numbers. So I'm going to go here and do the same thing. It's going to be a decimal pad, right? And now I need a button that actually will allow me to compute the BMI. So if I tap this button here, right, this button will say go. Okay, so if I tap go, this label should change to the actual BMI. So my view is fine. Now I need to create my view controller. My view controller has nothing to control actually these variables, right? So one thing that I can do, one thing that I need to do is to create outlets, or to create links from my code to my actual visual components. And there's several ways to do this. One way is to actually click on this little guy, the assistant editor, which will show me the actual code of my view controller side by side with my view. Here you see it's very compressed, okay, but it works. So, and what we do here is the following. All the components that I want to control, I'm going to, by the way, just to create more space, I'm going to get rid of this for the time being by clicking here. Okay, so what I will do, I'm going to get rid of that side as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the component that I'm interested in modifying, okay, and hit the control key and drag it all the way to the class view controller and let go. The connection should say outlet, and the name, what's the variable name for this text field? Well, it's going to be, this I believe is the height. So it's going to be height text field, the height text field. And as you can see, this created an IB outlet type of variable. Var, it's a weak reference, we can talk about that later. It's a variable, and it's called height text field, and it's of type UI text field. Okay, that's one way to create them. So I'm going to do this the same here. Hit control over there. It's going to be an outlet, and this one's going to be weight text field. Okay, now I have the height and the weight, and the other component that I want to modify here is this label, because I want to set it to the result, right? So again, control, click, and drag up to here. I'm going to call it, whoops, okay, fine, here. I'm going to call it result label, okay, and make sure that it's going to be an outlet. Connect. So now I have the three things that I want to connect. Then the other thing that I need to connect is what's going to happen when I tap on go. For that, again, control, click, and drag to my class here, to my view controller, let go, and then instead of being an outlet, this connection, this is going to be an action, because when I push this, I'm not interested in changing the text of it. I'm interested in doing something when an event happens. The event is a touch up inside. Basically, when I tap on it and then I let go, something's going to happen. What's going to happen is a function is going to get called. Here in the name, I get to name that function, and I'm going to call this function compute BMI connect. You will see that in this case, this was an IB action, not an IB outlet, an IB action, and it's a function, okay? So I have my view and the basic connections to my view controller. So let's go back to the regular editor. I'm going to show the project navigator, and I'm going to go to my view controller now. As you can see, my view controller has all the variables that I need. Plus, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move this function over to here. Okay, and here's what I'm going to do. Okay, so we're going to create a little variable to hold the BMI model, right? And what's going to happen with this is I'm going to create a new BMI model object, but I need to provide it with parameters height and weight. So before I create the BMI variable, I'm going to create a little variable here. H for height is going to be the conversion to a double of the text of the height text field. This is how I specified this, right? So the height is the conversion to a double of the text of the height text field. Now, the text can be null, right? So there's a chance that this text is null. So I need to what's called unwrap it. Okay. Now, I'm also going to do the same thing for the width. I'm going to make the for the weight. I'm going to basically get the text of the weight field, make it into a double, and I'm going to put in the variable W, right? And then I'm going to create the model with height H and weight W. Oh, and I have this. I forgot this exclamation. Actually, they go to unwrap the text, not the actual conversion to a double. And again, the same thing here. I'm just unwrapping values in case they're null. So I just do that. Now, this can also be a let. There's no reason for it to be a var. Now, what I will return what I will do now is to set the text of the result label to something else. So what I will do here is I'll say result label dot text equals, and then I will do BMI model dot BMI, right? So the text is going to be BMI. Now you will notice that this is actually a double, so I need to make it into a string, and I can just do it like this. That's how I can make it into a string, and this is all I need. Okay, so now we'll run it and test it. Here's our BMI calculator. I'll enter the height, 1.8. I'll enter the weight, 82, and then I'll click go. And this BMI label has changed to reflect the actual BMI.